Okay, well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are listening in from. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, Anka, David, appreciate you guys having us on your event. I hope that what I share with you guys today would be able to help with your trading, investing, and stuff like that. So today, what I thought about sharing with you is how can you tell when there's a topping pattern? You know, I saw somebody say the other day, so oh, everything is speculations anyways. Nobody can really tell tops or bottoms. You know, it's all gambling. And I said, well, not necessarily. There are some warning signs that you can see that would tell you, wait a second, that is a topping pattern. And also that is a bottoming pattern. Okay, so today I wanted to just focus on just one, because there's so many of them. We don't have enough time to go through each and every one of them, but I'm going to show you one in the hopes that, you know, this could help you see that, wait a second, maybe there is something to it. There's something I always tell people. I said the stock market is not random. And the sooner you believe that, the better it would help with your trading. And so we are pattern based type of investors and traders. We look for patterns, and if we see the pattern, we take action. If we don't see the pattern, we just don't take action. And so I'm going to show you, this is actually one of the first times I'm sharing this particular pattern with pretty much anybody, quite frankly. And hopefully this helps you as well. And so let's see how this goes. Before we get started, again, this is our risk disclosure statement. Just know that everything I share here today is not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold anything. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. I just share with you what has helped me become successful in the stock market. Okay, so here is an example of what we're going to be talking about today. I want you guys to see how this stock right here tanked tremendously, right? This stock tanked over 90%. And again, this is where people say, hey, you know, there was no warning signs or nobody could have seen that top. And I'm going to show you the very clear signs that there was a topping pattern right before this drop actually began, okay? But a little bit about myself. I am the chief technical strategist over here at Right Side Trading. We call our company Right Side Trading because part of what we try to do is try to anticipate what's going to happen on the right side of the chart. We don't like looking at things in hindsight, or at least in real life, you know, hindsight is not really going to help you. You got to be able to maybe take information from the past and use that to make informed decisions going forward. But the money is made by anticipating what's going to happen on the right side of your chart, not the left side of your chart. And so that's why we call it right side trading. Again, I have 17 years in accounting, finance, investing background, real estate included, as well as technical analysis and quantitative analysis, okay? And we specialize in identifying companies that have attractive prices, low risk, and has huge potential for capital appreciation, okay? Some of our notable calls that we've had is the beginning of this year in January. We talked about how crypto was going to crash. We actually wrote about this. We talked about this right before it crashed in 20. Also, we talked about the stock market topping out in January, which at that time, a lot of people didn't believe us. But we also talked about when the pandemic back in 2020, if you guys recall that, right before the pandemic happened and everything was shut down, we saw the topping patterns that told us, wait a second, something is not right. We also saw the bottoms, as well as the bottoms in the pandemic in March, as well as the one in 2018. Most people probably don't remember the one in 2018, but we literally call these to the T. And we've been doing so since then. And even with this bear market that we've been in, we've been calling literally every tops and bottom that's been taking place. So when I hear people say it's impossible to see tops and bottoms, I say, nah, you just, it's a learned skill. It's something that you just have to, you're not paying attention to the warning signs that the market gives, okay? Here is a sample of our report. We actually write this report every single week where we talk about what's going on in the market. So here's a sample of back in 2020. You can see this date right here when we were talking about the bear market and how we were calling that bear market, saying the market is ready to drop. The biggest thing you'll note in this, you know, this section right here is part of the report, but I just blew it up over here so you guys can see this. I said, we need to be ready for a slowdown at best, a reversal at worst, but the writing is already on the wall. It's time to take profit, exit position. The market is warning us to take heed. So that's when we kind of pointed out the top back right before the pandemic happened. Okay, this report was back in March of 2022 when we saw the bottom. And it says, have we found the bottom, or is this just a relief rally? Because usually that's what people always argue with. Even right now, a lot of people are arguing, are we dealing with a relief rally, or have we hit, or have we really hit the bottom? And so back in 2020, we wrote in our report on March 27th, have we hit the bottom, or is this just a relief rally? The answer is, just like we had the bearish signals that warned us of a bearish drop, this time the market is communicating it is time to cover all your short positions, exit your shorts, and get ready for a rally. So as you can see, and this is what the chart looked like back then when we saw, wait a second, that is a bottom and the market is ready to go higher. And so one of the things, and if you don't mind, indulge me in this, I ask people nowadays, what is causing Bitcoin and cryptocurrency to crash? Does anybody know what is causing Bitcoin and cryptocurrency to crash, or at least the crash that we've seen? What would you attribute that to? Because, a lot of people are saying, hey, there was no way we could have seen that, right? But what would you attribute that to? Criminality. James. I like that. I like that. Some people call it the cycle of Bitcoin. I've heard a lot of people say, what is it? The winter something. I think a lot of people are attributing that to. Julia is saying, dollar is too strong, right? And quite frankly, there's no trust. Nobody trusts the Bitcoin, right? And no 4-year cycle of halving is the number 4-year cycle. So there's a lot of things that we kind of think is like, this is what's causing the crash, right? This is what's causing the crash. Now, here's what I want to show you guys. In January, right? In January, in that report, the January report that we had in January, this is where I said we called the top. It says, look, again, you can look at, this is a sample of the report right here, but again, I just zoomed it out of here. The more we zoom out, the clearer it is becoming that Bitcoin is displaying some major topping patterns. Ladies and gentlemen, this is in January when we're saying this. So this is going to look ugly. This is not looking good. Chances are what? Very high that Bitcoin is going to suffer for the next 4 to 9 months. This is what we were telling people back in January, okay? And when I was saying this back in January, I was telling people, this is not going to look good. I was so convinced because of the topping patterns that I saw that I actually went on YouTube and recorded a recording, because I said, you know what, people would not believe me 9 months from now. Now, this was back in January. Ladies and gentlemen, we're 9 months now. Okay, so I was predicting 9 months into the future, and here we are now. And so because of that, I said, you know what, 9 months from now in September, people might have a hard time believing that we saw the stop. So I went out there, recorded this. It says we are taking the warning sign very seriously by staying away from Bitcoin. If what we see in Bitcoin is going to have a ripple effect, meaning on all the other cryptocurrencies, then the right side to be on is the bearish side. From what we see, this could last 4 to 9 months before things even begin to turn around. Now, the reason why I said bearish side was because at the time you could not short cryptocurrencies. Okay, you could not short cryptocurrency. Since then, now there's some ETFs that's come out that are inverse ETFs where you really can't short cryptos, but you can buy the inverse ETFs. But the point that I'm trying to highlight here is, ladies and gentlemen, we saw the topping patterns, so much so that we wrote about it, we recorded it, and all that kind of stuff. And so the reason why I asked you guys, what is the cause of this market, is because then in February, I'm seeing articles in the media saying Bitcoin is sinking because of the Russia-Ukraine war, or the tensions between Russia and Ukraine, okay? And how many people remember when that was the reason, quote unquote, if you could see my hands here, I'm putting it quote unquote, but that was the reason for cryptocurrencies to crash, okay? And because this is what the media was portraying, is, hey, it's because of the war with Russia and Ukraine, that's why everything is going down. And I'm saying, not necessarily. It has nothing to do, well, maybe it does, but the key is we saw the topping patterns taking place, the Russian-Ukraine crisis, exactly, right? Somebody's asking, how do you see Bitcoin? Will it get bullish before 2024? Not yet. So unfortunately, I can't see that far out into 2024, but I can at least tell you that there are no signs that it's getting better, at least not right now, okay? So in there, I text a buddy of mine who was actually contacting me, and telling me that, no, you don't know what you're talking about. And I said, look, we saw this coming. So was it the news that is dropping cryptocurrency, or the technical analysis, the topping pattern that we saw, was that what was helping us see that something was wrong? Okay. And so this is, the same text from the same person. And, his argument was, look, if it wasn't for the war, cryptocurrencies would be going higher. And I said, well, maybe, maybe not. But wouldn't you like to know the warning signs that we saw that told us something was wrong, so much so that we could see 9 months into the future? Yeah. The same person came up and told me, shared this YouTube video with me, trying to convince me that I was wrong in my analysis, because there were people on YouTube, you can look at the data up here, this is in January, that people on YouTube were telling them something else. And I said, well, this is my response back to the person. I said, look, let me know what that person that's telling you to buy Bitcoin in January and saying it's going to go higher, let me know what they say in September. And they laughed at me and say, September, okay, we'll see. And I said, well, that's what my analysis is all about. I see information on the chart that tells us it's going to struggle for 9 months. And this is what they responded back with. From your analysis, I see what you see, but I disagree. I don't agree with you because the news trumps analysis. And this is where, to me, there's a big difference. I'm not saying don't listen to news, but what I have found is that there are some patterns that will show up either right before the news or that confirms the news. But the one thing I know is if the news is saying one thing, but the chart is saying something different, and I had to choose who to listen to, I will listen to the chart over the news, okay? And that's kind of like what this is. And so, anyways, I wanted to show you guys this. Somebody asked, what are you doing with your billions and billions? I don't have billions, but I am chilling at home with my family, okay? My kids are homeschooled. My wife has not worked in over 5 years. I don't work, I just help people. I help people with what I do now, and that's pretty much what I do now, okay? But I don't have a 9 to 5. I haven't had a 9 to 5 in over 10 years. My wife doesn't have a 9 to 5. We trade, we invest what we have, and that's what we do, okay? And we just help people. It's not mandatory that anybody comes with us, but the one thing I will show you is the data. I will show you clear data that you cannot deny, okay? So once you learn how to see this data, hopefully that will help you too in doing better. Does that make sense? Okay, so let me just wrap this up right here. This was the report that we talked about. Again, most of what we do here is talk about what's going to happen before it happens. And so this is us in January talking about the market is going to collapse, okay? Top-end patterns, ladies and gentlemen, are beginning to appear. We are prepared for a bearish drop that can be significant. These are things that we said back in January, okay? Because top-end patterns are beginning to appear. And like I said, all we do is focus on patterns. Once we see the patterns, we act accordingly, all right? And I can show you more and more and more, but I want to get to what are these top-end patterns that we're talking about. So here's, again, TAL education that had dropped significantly. What was the top-end pattern that would have told you this was going to happen? And that pattern, ladies and gentlemen, is something that we call selling pressure. Now, some of you guys might already know what is called a hanging man. That is another terminology for it, a hanging man, but we use a different name for it because we found that there's different variations of this. But a hanging man is one of the technical names for that, okay? The reason why we chose not to just go with hanging man alone is because sometimes it could be a doji, and there's so many different types of dojis. But you have to be careful. But there's certain things, there's certain qualities that we look for in that pattern for us to say, yes, this is what is going to be considered a selling pressure. Now, the reason why we call this a selling pressure is because this long wick right here, and it doesn't matter whether it's green or red, okay? But it's the fact that we have a long wick above the body of a candle. That's the key, is that we have a long wick above the body of the candle. And the reason why we call it selling pressure is because price, what this tells us is that price went up, okay? It went all the way up here, and then there was pressure that sold it back down. Does that make sense? And so it's the fact that, you know what, everything was looking great. It was going up, 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 up. Everything was looking great. And then for some reason, whatever the reason is, there was huge selling pressure that sold it all off. That is usually one of the first warning signs that something wrong, something might be going wrong with that stock or the market. Okay, doesn't necessarily guarantee right away, but it's your first warning sign. I call it the tremors before an earthquake. Does that make sense? It's like a tremor before the earthquake. And so at this stage, when you start seeing stuff go up like this, then it comes down, that's usually a warning sign that something is not right. Now, in order to kind of quantify this a little bit better, just so that way when you guys see this, you can use this for yourself and study this out. One of the things that we want to see is that obviously the wick at the top must be bigger or equal to the body of the candle, okay? So that's one of the key things. It has to be equal or bigger than the body of the candle. So this is the body of that candle right here. So this wick at the top has to be equal in length or bigger, I guess maybe taller. But the one thing it cannot be is it cannot be shorter than this. If that's the case, we don't have a selling pressure. Okay. The question is this valid on a daily time frame? It's actually valid on any time frame. So yes, the answer is yes. You can use it on daily. You can use it on 1 minute chart, 5 minute chart, 10-minute chart, 15, 20, 30, an hour, 4 hours, whatever time frame you want to use this on. Yes, you can use this. But again, there's still some criteria that you need to be aware of to say, yes, this is a topping pattern. Okay. Because sometimes they might appear and it's not the top, but let's just take it one step at a time. But yes, the answer is it does apply to the daily time frame. Okay. The second thing is the bottom of the wick. The bottom of the wick must be smaller than the one at the top. So if this is equal in length, let's say the bottom one right here is equal to the length right here, then that's not a selling pressure. Please understand that. Okay. So the thing is, you want to see this up here. You want to see that long thing. And again, the reason why I say it's different from a hanging man is because a hanging man could be like a doji or long-legged doji, and people will see that as a doji rather than saying, wait a second, that is a hanging man. Now, if anybody knows doji, you know, Steve Bigelow talks about doji signals a lot. He teaches a lot about that. So anybody who's taking this course, you would know exactly what I'm about to say now. And one of the things he talks about is with a doji, what it does, it tells you that there's indecision. Okay, a doji tells you there's an indecision, and so that's why we rephrase this to selling pressure, because even if it's a doji, but it's one of those long-legged dojis like this, and it meets this criteria, we don't look at this as indecision anymore, more so than we look at it as, wait a second, something bad is about to happen, or maybe not even something bad, but it's a warning sign. Does that make sense? And that's kind of like what we want to pay attention to. Okay. So here's some things. If you want to take a screenshot of this, by all means, please do so. I put this in here because I wanted us to understand, look, don't confuse it with just hanging mans. Now, a hanging man, if you know what a hanging man candlestick is, could be the selling pressure. So please understand that it's pretty much, well, let me rephrase it. Every hanging man is a selling pressure. Make sense? But not every selling pressure becomes a hanging man. I hope I'm not confusing everybody. A hanging man candlestick, every hanging man candlestick is a selling pressure, but not every selling pressure is a hanging man. So that's the reason why I want to put that in there, because in the event that you see another chart where it's not a hanging man, but it has the qualities of what we just discussed earlier, please understand selling pressure is selling pressure. It's the fact that price went up, got sold right back down, that makes the difference. Okay. Also, a selling pressure can be a doji candlestick, but not every doji candlestick is a selling pressure. So please understand that too as well. The other thing to keep in mind is you don't really need volume. If you have volume, great, but if you don't, it doesn't really matter. The key is that a selling pressure warns you that a top-end pattern has appeared. And when the warning is there, it's almost like a yield sign telling you, say, hey, yield, or pay attention. There's a yellow light to tell you something is wrong. Okay. It works with news or no news event. And again, like I showed you, whether the news confirms it or not, When I see a selling pressure, I know something needs to be done. I need to be paying attention. This is when I know I need to be going in there, taking profits or tighten up stops and all that kind of stuff, okay? The signals, it signals a top is to be expected. Now, here's the interesting thing. Usually, almost 95 to 99% of the time, when you see these selling pressures, especially after a huge rally in price, and then now all of a sudden you see this selling pressure, I know from everything that I've seen out there and how long I've been doing this, that within six candles, okay? So if you were in a 1 minute chart and you saw this and it meets the criteria that we're gonna be discussing soon, then it's like, hey, within the next 6 minutes, you should see this thing top out, okay? If not sooner than that. If you're looking at a weekly chart, within the next 6 weeks, this thing is going to top out. So the cool thing about this is like when you see the very first one that meets that criteria, that you know, wow, things are about to start coming to an end very soon. And I like that because it's one of those things where it kind of tells you, hey, don't get greedy, because this is usually when people start getting greedy, right? They see a stock that goes really high, it spikes up, it's, oh my goodness, and then it comes back down. And what the general public will tell you is, hey, buy now because it's cheaper, price is lower now because it's going to go back up. And this is where you could get yourself into trouble. So I don't mind if a stock goes up and everybody excited about it, but if it's a selling pressure, when that happens, or at the end of that day, it turns into a selling pressure. Let's say I was the one that bought all the way up here, and then I saw by the end of the day or the end of that time frame, it turned into a selling pressure. Rather than leaving it and say, well, let's see what's going to happen, I'm saying, look, I need to get out of this because something is not right. But more importantly, if I'm seeing this for the first time, or I heard about a stock, I come up there and I see the selling pressure, I'm saying, no, 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 I am not getting involved. And lastly, if I was already in that stock and I was enjoying this humongous rise to the top, and then all of a sudden I see selling pressures, I know I need to go in there and start taking profits, okay? So a selling pressure can stand alone, but if there's additional signals, it helps. And like I said, you can use it on really honestly any time frame. All right. So let's go to the charts and see how this works. So I talked about this company, TAL Education. This is a chart that we saw, and we can see how, price rises. So the first thing we want to see when a selling pressure occurs is that I want to see stocks that have had humongous rally. Okay, huge rallies in price. That's one of the things. Preferably, if I can see a stock that has moved anywhere from 50% or more. Usually, like especially if you see those that goes 100%, 200%, and they do it within a relatively short period of time. Okay, if they do it within a relatively short period of time, usually I look at that and I say, uh-oh, that is a huge warning sign that things are about to come crashing down. Okay, so one of the first criteria is you want to see a huge rally in price. Huge rally in price. The higher the time frame that you're on, then it becomes even stronger. Does that make sense? So if I see this on a monthly chart, I was like, wow, I know what's going to happen to this going into the future, is that it's going to suffer for a very long time. Does that make sense? So this stock ended up dropping about 93%. And the warning sign, ladies and gentlemen, was right there. Again, I'm not making this up. This is what was there prior to that happening, okay? But once this happened, and then we started seeing this, that was your warning sign. But you see, this is where I say the warning sign was there already that told us, pay attention, something bad is about to happen. Here's this company called Fiverr. Fiverr was another company that came out, was doing really well, started heading higher. I want you guys to notice this. Again, we want stocks that have double, triple, quadruple in price, preferably, okay? Because again, those are ones that like shoots up really high. So all these penny stocks that, shoots up for like a day, pow, 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 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, you see these stocks are doing well for a week and stuff like that. Just pay attention to that selling pressure, because sooner or later, that is going to affect the stock. Donald is saying that sign is exactly what I look for in U-turns. Exactly. Very good, Donald. Very good. Again, this is huge. Okay. This is huge. And I'm so amazed as to how many people don't see that. And so when people say, oh, there's no warning sign or nobody could predict the top, I'm just like, well, just like Don, you're just not looking at the right thing. I mean, Don is looking at the right thing. Okay. But you're just not paying attention to the right information. And so as you can see, as this started going up, if we look over here, let's just say it started at $40. It actually started less, but let's just say it started at 40. At $80, the stock has already doubled in price within a relatively short period of time. Right there, that tells me, okay, great. Now let's start paying attention to any selling pressure. If you notice, the first selling pressure occurred right there. And this is why I say within what, 6 candles, the stock will top out. So this is candle number 1. Candle number 2. At candle number 2, this is where you have to see, this is where people might get confused. Is this a selling pressure? The answer is yes, it's a selling pressure. Is this a hanging man? The answer is no, it's not a hanging man, because the bottom wick on a hanging man, you can't have a long wick at the bottom. So this would have disqualified this as a hanging man. And what it would turn it into is a spinning top, okay, or a doji is spinning top. And people would see that and say, okay, yeah, you know, that's a spinning top that's indecision. I would have said, no, this is another selling pressure occurring. So we had our very first one here, we had a second one there, a third one here, and a fourth one here. So like I said, within 6 candles of the first one appearing, you need to be able to pay attention. What time frame? It doesn't matter. This one in particular is the monthly, but again, you can do this on any time frame, Matt. You can do this on a daily, weekly, monthly. It doesn't really matter. You can do it on a 5-minute, 1-minute time frame. The key, again, the key is making sure that you've had a huge rally. All right, that's the biggest thing. You want to make sure that you had a huge rally before you start seeing these things. And then when it happens, start counting. Okay, when you see the first one, that's your first clue to say, hey, wait a second, something is not right. These are the quote unquote, the tremors before the earthquake, if you want to look at it that way. That's a tremor right there. And then we had another tremor. Then we had a huge tremor taking place. And then now things topped out before it did what? It rolled over. Okay. But again, to come to this and tell me, oh, nobody could have predicted that this was the top. Now, maybe we didn't catch this absolute top. I'll give you that. Okay, we didn't catch that absolute top. But to me, like Donald was saying, once we saw this, I would be skeptical of jumping in a trade like this. If anything, I would say, look, it had a good ride. Either take your profits or watch out for the rollover to take place. And this is where I say, you know, you don't want to be in trades like this. Now, somebody may say, well, but Wally, we could have gone from 140 all the way to 340. That's true. But again, the risk is now higher once you start seeing these selling pressure, especially you had 1, 2, 3, 4 of them in 5 candles. That tells you warning sign, warning sign, warning sign. Okay. 344572 says, how about hammer 3 candles after top? Canceled? No, it doesn't. It doesn't cancel it. So he's talking about these hammer signals right here, or she, I'm not sure. I'm assuming this guy, forgive me for saying that. I'm assuming you're a guy. But this right here, they're talking about these hammer signals right here. No. Okay, and what I've found, the reason why I say it doesn't negate that, it doesn't cancel that, is because you would typically, we are talking about topping patterns, right? And topping patterns, especially now, so here's the key. It's important that we are very selective on the type of stocks we're looking for topping patterns on. Does that make sense? Let me repeat that. It's important that we're very selective, okay? This is not a situation where it's like, oh, let's just trade every single one we see. Again, there are criteria that we look for that can give us a good idea. Number one, like I said, you want to see stocks that have trended huge trends or big moves, okay? Usually when that happens, all I'm saying is these are warning signs that something bad is about to happen. So anything else that happens here, to me, is just all part of the volatility that takes place. And so if I was to give a story like Donna saying, hey, I love candlestick because the story is always talking. My father-in-law used to always tell me, I studied accounting. My father-in-law was an accountant. My mom was an accountant. My dad was an accountant. So accounting runs in the family, right? But my father-in-law would tell me, he said, the story is in the numbers. The story is in the numbers. I always remember that. Even Warren Buffett would tell you, he said, like, accounting is the language of the stock market, right? And so to me, candlesticks is the language of charting. And so I love candlesticks, like Donald is saying, because again, there's stories to be told here. When I see stuff like this, I know something is wrong. I know something is wrong. Now, I would see something like this as to, look, I don't want to be involved in this anymore. Let me know when it rolls over. But to go back to what 344572 is asking, once these starts happening, one of the first things you're going to start seeing a lot of volatility. And that's why you see big red candles and this, and people are trying to fight back and forth, but almost always the sellers are going to win because they've already ran this stock so high. And then what you'll see is that it comes right back down. Okay. Here's Beyond Meat. You're welcome. Here's Beyond Meat. I don't know how many people remember Beyond Meat when it first came out. Everybody was talking about Beyond Meat, blah, blah, it's a new thing, it's a new healthy food and all that kind of stuff. Great, no problem, right? But look at what happened recently. Again, we're looking for stocks that have had a huge rally, right? They had this huge rally, and then out of nowhere, look at what happened. Or was it really out of nowhere that this happened, and then this happened as well before the stock did what? So again, the first thing is when I see these type of stuff, these selling pressures that I see here, I want to know how big of a move has taken place before that happened. Because if we are looking at a stock that started at 22 and it only went to 24, that's not big enough for me. Like I said, I want to see a 50% or more of a rally in a relatively short period of time. If I can see a big move like that take place, and then I see this, I say, aha, yes. Now we're talking. So there's only a few more of the things that we need to see to show us that it is ready to roll over. But ladies and gentlemen, can you imagine the people who saw this? This was probably based on some kind of news, maybe earnings or something like that. Gapped up. Everybody's like, wow, look at how big this stock moved. The media is going to be having a field day. Look at how big this stock moved. The very next day, it seemed like it's going to the moon and beyond. And then by the end of that day, I see this. So the first thing I would do is say, hey, okay, this stock went all the way up to 44. Where did it begin from? Oh, wow, it began somewhere down here, 22, maybe even somewhere even down here, almost 21. That's almost 100% move. Great. Now, based off of this, I know that within what, within 6 candles, this should top itself out and we should start seeing things roll over, okay? Now, you can either start shorting if you want to, or you can just say, look, let me take my money and get out of here. Or if you just bought, if you were unfortunately the person that bought all the way at the top over here, you just count your losses and move on. Because it's better to take that loss from here to here than to wonder about holding on to something like this, okay? 343898 is asking, what are the 6 candles you are mentioning? Oh, earlier I mentioned the fact that once you have a stock that has moved big and they have a selling pressure signals, within 6 candles, you'll see that that stock will top out, okay? So in this case, it topped out immediately. That was the top. But usually 95% of the time, no more than 6 candles later, you will see that top out. So I showed an example earlier where I showed this right here, okay, where the stock had rallied pretty big, over 100%. Then this happened. I said within 6 candles, it would top out. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4 candles later. That was within our 6 candle range. Does that make sense? And then it topped out and then it rolled over. Hopefully that helps. The other thing is, for those of you guys who like to short, I don't short too often, but if I was to short anything, these would be the ones that I would short, because one of the things I do know is usually where it began from, they almost always come right back down to that same level. Write that down. Stocks that, and this is where, again, and this is why I said, for those who trade penny stocks, you see these penny stocks that shoot up like crazy. They might go for a week, 2 weeks, a month, doesn't matter. right? Once that topping pattern appears, just be aware that look at where it began from, and you can expect it to come back down to those levels, okay? Michael is saying it triangles like that because the market must be orderly. I do agree with that. Another theory I have is that, you know, a lot of times what happens is that these are like stocks that the big institutions are usually not invested in, okay? And or it's one of those things where they've seen that, hey, we've made a lot of money, it's time to bail. And that's kind of like what you see, okay? Well, what about buying puts with this pattern? Absolutely. 344946. Yes, absolutely. You can buy puts, and that's my whole point. I mean, again, I'm just showing you what exists. And again, when I started with this, my goal was to kind of show you that look, you can see these patterns. That's why when I shared what we wrote in our reports in the beginning, in January, in cryptos, and all this stuff, is that like the writing is on the wall. It wasn't because we had a crystal ball, more so we just saw the pattern and we say, hey, when these patterns appear, you need to be prepared for a market that's going to drop. And that's why I said, take your profit. The writing is on the wall. Like, I was very adamant about this. And like I said, some people didn't agree with me. And I said, well, come back in 9 months. Let's see where crypto is. Does anybody know where crypto is from January? I mean, obviously, that's a rhetorical question. We all know that cryptocurrency has crashed. I could go back and say, oh, yeah, I saw the crystal ball. But really, it was just the patterns. The same topping patterns that I'm showing you guys here is what I saw on crypto, what I saw in the market, what I saw in so many different stocks. And I've said, look, guys, when this appears, do not come back 9 months from now and say nobody saw the top. Donald saw the top. Okay, I saw the top. There are things that we can see in charts that helps us to see that this is topping out. And that's what I'm trying to help you to see. And this is why anybody who follows me knows I always say this: the stock market is not random. People say, well, it's because of the war in Russia. So maybe it is, maybe it isn't. All I know is the pattern is there. The tremors before the earthquake has appeared. I can see it. I don't need anybody on the news to show me this. I can see it with my own two eyes, and so can you. Okay. Donald Jackson, is that a pivot where it retraces back to the mean? I'm not sure about that. That's a very interesting concept. All I know is usually stocks that move that big end up giving it all back. Okay. Michael Rich is saying usually each candle on left is matched with the same height candle on the left. Sometimes, yes. But the idea here is, again, you guys will see the warning signs. These are the warning signs. Oh, you meant on the right. Okay, yeah, you threw me off on that one too. You threw me off on that one, Michael. Thank you for correcting that. Okay, but yes, you are right. You are absolutely right. And this is why, again, guys, there are opportunities if you pay attention to this. But hopefully everybody on this call can see that, look, I'm not, this is not me having a secret sauce. I'm just showing you what exists out there. You know, kind of like how you buy a new car and it's a brand new car, a model that you've never driven before. And it's like, oh, wow, you know, and now you have it. And then as soon as you drive it off the lot, you start seeing so many cars like that. It's like, wait a second, I thought I was the only one that had this information or this car. No, you know, it's just that we were not paying attention. And so when people come and say, there's no way you can see topping patterns, there's no way you can see bottom patterns, all speculation, I said, I don't agree with that. We've been doing this for 10 years now. I retired off of that. I retired my wife off of that. I homeschool my kids because of that. Okay. I give back to my community because of that. All right. It's because I see these patterns. Let me fast forward because we do have to wrap things up. Here is EDU, same pattern. Okay. If you're buying puts, how much time should you buy? So this is where it gets interesting, okay? And unfortunately, I won't go into the details here. If you come to the workshop that I'll be doing on Tuesday, I will share that with you, okay? I'm gonna give you guys an offer at the end today for those who might be interested, because there's a lot more to this than just this. My biggest goal here was to show you that, look, it's possible to see this, right? Now that you know that you can see this, then now it's like, okay, how do we make sure that we capitalize on what we're seeing? That make sense? Excellent. Don is on my page, man. You know, I don't even know you, Don, but I already love you, man. You know, in a brotherly kind of way. It's like you understand where we're coming from. When you say 3 to 6 months and buying puts, again, it depends. So I don't want to go too much into detail, but it depends because it depends on what time frame you're looking at. If you see this on the daily, it's different from whether you see it on a weekly, whether you see it on a monthly, all right? Just to kind of give you, I shouldn't do this, but I'll just do this. Typically, once that appears, and we need to see certain signs that the drop is beginning. Once that begins, I would say anywhere from 4 to 9 candles. Okay, 4 to 9 candles. So again, that depends on what time frame you're on. That depends on what you're doing, and all that kind of stuff. But 4 to 9 candles is usually. But again, I'll go into more of that on Tuesday when I do the whole class in full detail. We're going to do an advanced workshop where I show you every single day, even including indicators and all that kind of stuff with it too as well. Okay. A couple more examples. This is a stock that came out IPO, shot up 700%, ladies and gentlemen. This stock shot up 700%. When this was brought to my attention, it was one of my students that, oh my gosh, Wally, what should we do? And I said, what should we do? It's like, wait for it to top out. A stock that moves up 700% in less than a month is going to come right back down. Pure and simple. Well, how do you know when it's ready to come back down? Hopefully you guys can help me answer that question now. And again, what we see here is what we're looking at. Okay, so the person who asks, hey, once that appears, how many candles? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 candles. 4 to 9 candles later. So if you were looking at this, this is a weekly chart. So you'll have to trade that differently. Okay. GameStop, yes. GameStop, thank you very much. What other indicators do you use with that? I will share that on the Tuesday night call, Abraham. Okay. 344522 is asking or saying GameStop. You're absolutely correct. This happened on GameStop. So, you know, all those meme stocks that everybody is taking a look at, you know, that happened. AMC, even recently on AMC, right? Same thing. This is a daily chart on AMC. Look at how much this thing went up. $14 to $34. Excellent. Excellent, right? The first one appeared right here. This was the very first one. This is the second one. Okay, great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles. Remember, within how many candles? 6 candles, they top out. Boom, that tops out at 6. Where did it begin from? It began down here. What do we expect it to do? It's going to come all the way down. Now, this is a daily time frame. So the person was asking, hey, what type of option would you trade? Again, that's up to you. But we go into more details about that on the advanced workshop, okay? Recently, same thing happened to AMC recently. I remember when all the markets were rallying back in July and a lot of stocks are doing well. I was okay, yeah, let it rally. And all we got to do is do what? Look for the ones that have selling pressures. Okay. Now, this is why I say this right here, a lot of people, this candle right here, a lot of people would have looked at this and said, oh, that's a doji, indecision. I get that. But I also know, wait a second, here is a selling pressure. I know that this stock is topping out. The person that asked about the hammers, all these are just distractions before, like Donald knows, is going to do what? Roll over. Okay. There's always a correction in the market. Absolutely. So when stocks move up again from $14 here to 28, boom, that's more than my 50% criteria that I'm looking for. Excellent. Now we just have to look for certain information that tells us, yep, the rollover has begun, and boom, this is what happens. So yes, this is something that occurs all the time. Here's GameStop. The recent rally in GameStop just took place. $30, somewhere around here when it started, went up to about 47. That's more than the 50% that we're looking for. Excellent. Okay. We have what we're looking for as far as the rally criteria. That's part one. Now we see this humongous tremor in the market before the earthquake, the tremor before the earthquake, right? That tells me it's going to top out. We're dealing with topping patterns. I remember GameStop came out with, what was it? A stock split. They came out with stock split, and people are like, oh yeah, it's going to go to the moon and beyond. I was like, not after we see this right here. Not after we see this right here. I said, be careful, guys, because this right here tells me it's going to top out soon. Well, how long is it going to take? Because this is a daily chart, I don't see this going higher within the next 6 days. Okay. And then, boom, this happens. Donna Jackson, is there always, is there a way to read a gap that may be happening? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. But unfortunately, that's not the topic for today, but absolutely there is. Maybe the next time I come out, talk about how to trade gaps and stuff like that. Okay. What do we know about this? We know that it started from here. What do we expect? That it's going to come back down to that level. I'm going to end with this example. 343898 is actually what makes you decide, just like in GameStop, look at June, same pattern? No, not necessarily. This pattern occurs regardless of past history or not, but you're right. I mean, this is something like this again. And so here's where, like I said, first criteria is we need to know that, hey, the stock has moved up 50%. We also know there are some times where you deal with these volatility. This is kind of what I was telling that gentleman or that person that asked about, what about a hammer signal? There are times when you have to deal with this. And again, I will go into more details about this on Tuesday. How do you know that it's ready to drop right away from whether it's going to deal with this first? Okay, very, very important. Very, very important to tell the difference between when the trend is actually kicking off, as opposed to like, wait a second, this is not necessarily trend. Let's be patient. We see this come back, and then it happens like that. June, let's say, look at June. Oh, this right here. Okay, yes, very good. So if you look at June right here, you notice how it didn't go all the way down. Again, there are things that I will show you to tell you, say, hey, wait a second. Yes, this topping pattern is here. We need to see certain things before we start shorting it. Okay, we need to see that before we start shorting it. And this is why I said, come to the Tuesday class. I promise you, you have my word, that I will show you exactly what you need to see. Okay. But even with this, so we had this, we had these topping patterns right here. Look at how long the stock took before it could even go any higher, right? We're talking about from June, and this is a daily time frame, to about almost middle of July. That's a month and a half. Actually, we talked about towards the end of May. So almost 2 months. Okay, do you want to be in a stock that is not going to go anywhere for 2 months after it's giving you patterns and warning signs that this is not going to go anywhere anytime soon? I saw those topping patterns is what 344300 is saying. I would hate to be the person buying at the game top. God bless you for saying that. And this is where, again, I get people who would text me, say, oh man, look at this. Did you see what happened here? I said, well, you know, look at what that pattern is telling you there. You know, like Donald said, candlestick tells a lot of stories. The candlesticks are very, very important to understand. Okay, and then when you add other indicators to this, this really helps you to see stuff that's taking place. I'm going to end with this one right here on a sad note, so to speak, but it's also just, I don't know how many people heard about what happened to the CFO of Bed Bath & Beyond. May his soul rest in peace. He committed suicide, right? This just literally happened, ladies and gentlemen, this, last couple of days, okay? It's a bad thing that happened to him. I kid you not, back in August, when this started rallying, I was telling people, I said, you know what, guys? People were asking me, it's like, do you think that's a pump and dump? Why is Bed Bath & Beyond rallying so high? I said, well, this is a very typical thing with stocks that do stuff like this. I don't know. It was last Saturday. Thank you. It was last Saturday that this happened. And he didn't want to go to jail because I heard that there was some indictments against him. And I guess he didn't want to go to jail, right? But when this was happening, people was like, man, Bed Bath & Beyond is coming out. Yes, exactly. 344496, him and Cohen, right? They were both indicted. And I guess he didn't want to go to jail. So you got to ask yourself, what else is he hiding? I mean, what is he hiding so much that he felt that he had to commit suicide because he did not want to go to jail? I don't know. But Before all that news came out, I had people that came to me and say, hey, Wally, what do you think? Should we jump into this? Maybe it can go higher a little bit more. And as soon as I saw this, I said, oh, don't you even think about it. Don't you even think about this. Like you, like 343898 says, look, I love to live. I don't want to die. This was a daily chart. This is a daily chart, James. And so when I saw this, because it came out and the news was there, oh, it's going up. And I said, it was all over the news too. And I was like, I said, you know what? Somebody's not telling the truth. This is not looking good. And so from the time I saw this, I said 6 candles. The very next day I saw this, and I said, oh man, it's already began. When this happened, I said, it's time to short. I started warning all my subscribers when it got down here. I said, guys, do not get fooled into any rally that takes place right here, because it's going to do what? Give it back. Why? Because I expect it to come down to this level, because this is what they do. So I hope that at least enlightened you. There are patterns that occur. And again, this is just scratching the surface. So like I said, there are 4 more other patterns that I can show you in addition to this. On Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, 7 p.m., I am going to be having what I consider to be the advanced workshop. I'm going to show you how to see all 4 or total 5 patterns that you need to see. But in addition to that, I'm going to give you everything that you need, indicators, how to trade it with options, if you choose to trade it with options, what to look for. First, all you saw today was just a warning sign, okay? I'm going to take it into more details. Okay, once you see the warning signs, there are different types of warning signs. The warning signs that say, look, it's just going to go sideways. So be aware of that. So if you want to trade iron condors, you can trade iron condors on those. Or the warning sign that said, no, there's a plunge that is about to happen. So that if you want to just buy put options, you just want to short, it's up to you, okay? But you need to be aware of these things. Then we're also going to talk about how to even find these stocks. Where do you go to find them? How do you scan for them? And all that kind of stuff. These are kind of things that we're going to talk about in full detail. Well, I will spend as much time as I need to spend to answer any question that people would have to get them to understand this, okay? Typically, I would have charged $474, but today, $497, $500, ladies and gentlemen, $500, so that you can have the knowledge, even if you know it, kind of like how Donald already knows a lot of this stuff. For extra $500 to understand, hey, I can add these extra things to my arsenal, so that way I know what to look for. We're talking about duration. It's not coincidence that I told people in my report back in January that Bitcoin was going to suffer for 4 to 9 months. Get out, get out, get out. Warning signs that I was telling people. People didn't believe me then. They would show me videos of YouTubers telling, hey, it's going to go higher. I said, let me know what they are saying in September. I need to go back to those YouTube channels and see. I mean, I probably won't do it, but because it's irrelevant. But the point is, I told them back in January, I said, come back in September and let me see what this is going to do. And anybody can go to the chart of Bitcoin right now, and you will see that Bitcoin is down since January, 9 months into it. How is it that I'm able to see these things? And if you notice the things that I have on my reports, I'm not on the fence. It's a strong look. The writing is on the wall. You know, it's time to take profit. These are strong, you know, words, not iffy words that I put out there. Okay, so 497, and then lastly, this is something that every time I do my research, okay, would I talk about bottoming patterns? Not necessarily on this one. This is just topping patterns. We have a whole different course on bottoming patterns, okay? But quite frankly, if you pay attention to the top end, I just throw that out there. I shouldn't, but I throw it out there. But if you pay attention to the top end and you know how to reverse engineer it, you can figure out the bottoms. Is that fair enough? Okay. This is every time I come up with a strategy, I've done my studies, I've done my research and everything. I always document everything. Okay, so you can see here, last updated August 21st actually, no, I'm sorry, not updated, but when I did this was August 21st, 2020. Okay, where I then went in and I put in all the research that I've done and I document this. Okay, this is stuff that I go in there and I and I put this information, I would give you guys this. Now I hit all the indicators that you need to see. You can see it says any time frame, and then I talk about step-by-step strategies. Now I wrote this because anybody who knows me, I've said this many times, my kids, I homeschool my kids right now. I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, my 8-year-old. My goal is that they become traders, investors, and never have to work a day in their life like mommy and daddy's doing right now. My goal is that they can take this information and go through it step by step and apply this even without me being there to help them, okay? I'm gonna give you these documents that I wrote to help my kids. I'll give you guys that too for those who come to this webinar, okay? That's my time. I would take questions, but I've run out of time. I do appreciate you guys participating. And again, if you have any questions, just let us know. Info Right Side Trading. We put the link to where you can sign up with us for $497, $500, ladies and gentlemen. And you can see things that would help you improve your trading. Consider